What is up, you guys? It is your boy Brent Bickus here, and welcome to another video. And hey, we are back in my room making videos. So today's video, we are going to be talking about the new theme of the team winning the Super Bowl. So I just randomly came up with this idea. You know what I'm saying? I just randomly came up with this idea, and so you're like, wait, what do you mean by that exactly? Well, what might be your theme, you may ask? It is basically of the following 2023, which we'll talk about that theme specifically later. Last year's theme was yes, you can pay a quarterback and win a Super Bowl. You can. It's proof. The other Super Bowl was that you can trade all your first round picks and win a Super Bowl. But then the aftermath is you could end up in a very bad situation. I mean, look like the Rams. And then, well, those are just the things I pop in the top of my head. So, yeah, but the theme of this Super Bowl, of how the Chiefs won, which is honestly a little interesting to me, is how you don't need a high-power wide receiver to win a Super Bowl. Which is actually kind of interesting. Obviously, if you're looking at the Niners, yeah, they have, like, Brennan and Deebo Samuel, but, like, they're not, like, top 5 receivers. So, the Super Bowl theme here is that they both had very good tight ends, but not the best receiving core in the league. Like, you're really about to be telling me that the Brandon Aiyuk, Deebo Samuel, and Greg Jennings is the top 3 best receiving core? Really? Okay, let's just throw it out there at this. The Seahawks receiver core is number 3, Dolphins is number 2, and then you have the Bengals for number 1, for now in that matter. So, yeah, this is actually very, well, it makes sense, you know. But this Chiefs offense did not really have a good receiver. Did they have a good tight end? Yes, they did in Travis Kelce. But their best receiver was Rasheem Rice, which he did end up doing pretty good during the end of the season, but like that's about it. Like they did not have a really like consistent good receiver this entire year. Like Rasheem Rice was inconsistent most of the year until the end part of the season when it mattered. So that's just something to throw out there. Like you had these garbage receivers and yet still had end up making it to the Super Bowl. That is insane. But that's also proving something. Do you really need good receivers to win a Super Bowl? Or like have a top receiving core? It's proving that you really don't. Like Rasheem Rice, like he's good and all, but like they didn't add any other good playmaker outside of Travis Kelce in the pass catching group. As I'm not including running backs. Obviously. So that's something that is very interesting. Is that this team only had 2 good receivers and yet made it to a Super Bowl. Now let's look at other Super Bowl contending teams, like the Bengals, for example. They have 3 amazing receivers and an amazing running back. Niners, they had a very good tight end, 3 amazing receivers, and one of the best running backs, I think, in this league. And honestly, who should have won MVP, in my opinion? The Ravens, they had Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews, and also a running backs that keep getting injured. The Texans, they had Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz. Like, you kind of get the point here. A lot of teams have a lot of playmakers. This team doesn't. This team really only had 3 good playmakers, which I'm not including the quarterback position. Isaiah Pacheco, Rasheem Rice, Travis Kelce. So you're thinking about that, and now you're like, wait a minute. Why in the hell am I paying a receiver then $25 million a year? Now, let me just look at a perfect example of what a team can definitely be on their downfall. The Philadelphia Eagles and the Cincinnati Bengals. both of these teams are heading into their downfall seasons, I feel like. Jalen Hurts is about to start his contract, same thing with Joe Burrow. They both have receivers coming up that will maybe potentially be free agents if they don't decide to pay them. And they have no idea how much they should give them because they are the WR2 or WR1 options. Yes, I'm talking about Devontae Smith, Ja'Marr Chase, and T. Higgins. But the interesting part about Devontae Smith and T. Higgins is that they both could be a WR1 in a different team, which is very interesting. Now, obviously, I think Devontae Smith wants to stay in Philly, but T. Higgins, he's saying otherwise, and he wouldn't mind going into like a team like Tennessee or Carolina if the money is right. So it's just a little interesting, to say the least, of what's going on. But the question is it worth paying receivers that much money? 20 to 25 million? I don't think so. Because the past 2 years now, I think, the Chiefs have not paid a receiver over $15 million. That's a lot of money. But still, nobody's getting paid that much. That's interesting to me. Because if you're looking at like the teams that have high paid receivers, they're not really doing so well. Like, look at Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams in one of the arguably the craziest off seasons of all time. They literally just had, like 30 million, 31, 29, 28 million dollars a year, I think, annually. And look what's happening with them. They are not even Super Bowl contender. Well, they're not going to probably make it to like the AFC Championship game anytime soon. Well, I guess there is a case with the Dolphins, but it's also kind of if this team can stay healthy, which that's the problem with that team. And you can also set that same reason for the Ravens now for the past few years, so I don't really want to hear it anymore. So, yeah, it's just so weird what situation that they're currently in, the Dolphins and the Raiders, because they have like the highest paid receivers. But it might not be for very long. Look at Justin Jefferson, for example. He is supposed to be getting a contract this season. And honestly, I think he deserves to be the highest paid receiver in the league. Because, well, he's the best receiver in the league. So it makes sense. So, like, again, like, it's just like, and especially like this class. Like, this class has, like, what? T. Higgins, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb was in there. Jerry Jeudy's going to be interesting, honestly. Is there any other receivers? I can't, those are the receivers that just pop in the top of my head. I don't remember any, 2020 receivers. Was Tutu Atwell on that list? Was Tutu Atwell on that list? I don't know, but yeah. I'm going to be right back, though, guys. There we go. Alright, I am back. If you hear something in the background, it's just my fan. It is getting warm up here. Not in terms of weather. The weather is literally a freaking roller coaster. It's supposed to be like the 60s, and then it's going to go back to the 30s. So it's like, what the frick, Mother Nature? But, back to the point here. It's like, you're starting to question yourself, is having great receivers worth it? You know? And paying all this their much money. Because apparently, it's easy to find wide receiver talent. Seriously. And that's, the one thing that's so frustrating. For example, a team like the Bills, who have Stephon Diggs, who's, one of the best receivers. It just sucks that they don't have anybody else to help them out. Dalton Kincaid, sure, he could be good. But he didn't show that in his rookie year. And that's also because he also had Dawson Knox, so you get the point. Gabe Davis is not the guy, but it's also interesting to see how he's going to be as a free agent and how much money he's going to be asking for. See, you kind of get the point here. There are a lot of teams that, have more or less playmakers. And they're kind of, in a situation that they have no idea what to do. The Bengals, I feel one of the reasons why they're in a sticky situation is because of how good their receiving core is. Honestly, this is what I think I would do if I was the Bengals. I would honestly let T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd walk. unless T. Higgins will accept a contract that's under $20 million a year, because you're obviously going to pay Jamal Chase like top 5 receiver money, or around what Justin Jefferson is asking. And then you could just go draft the receiver in the first round. I mean, like, again, they have really no needs on this team outside of the O-line. So, like, you might as well do that and see what the frick happens. And you also got to take these budget cuts, too, if I was the Bengals, because you're literally starting their new contract with Joe Burrow. So that's something to throw out there. So, just, again, something to throw out there. But then I have let's look at the Super Bowl champions. Brandon Ayuk is expected to maybe not return this year. Or, well, not return, but, like, he's not expected to maybe be excited to playing back in San Fran due to him wanting a contract extension, or he is going to potentially get traded during the offseason, which would suck because he's like one of the best, I think, pieces on that team, not including Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle. But like outside of, like, I'm not including the O-line. Like in terms of playmakers, I would say it's Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle. Yes, I do think he's better than Deebo Samuel, but I'll get to that later. So, like, you kind of get the point. Like, this is a very talented team, but yet they have no idea what the frick they're doing, and especially in their cap situation. And this is the last year for them to actually do something. And that's actually one thing I thought was kind of interesting with Brock Purdy, is how he's made it this far, but not won a Super Bowl, despite he's the lowest paid quarterback in the league. So basically, he has the most talented team in the league. But the biggest problem, I think, with the Niners with that Super Bowl is just like the edge rushers not really doing their job, and they kind of blew it in that game, and their secondary wasn't really doing that good against a garbage receiving core. So that's kind of just the only problem I could say with that Niners team. And this is coming from a team that's not even paying your quarterback that much. I'm just throwing that out there. So that's something that is very interesting. And then you have the Super Bowl team that lost last year, the Eagles. They just recently paid their quarterback, which is now in the top 5. I think he's 4th highest paid quarterback in the league, I think, because Justin Herbert had a higher paid contract. Lamar Jackson had a higher paid contract, despite you shouldn't, during the time. And Joe Burrow was also the highest paid quarterback, which I also think makes sense. I think he should be the second highest. Like, if we're saying in terms of value, Patrick Mahomes is number 1, but the Joe Burrow should be second. So technically, I think it makes sense. But Justin Herbert being above Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, I just don't think that makes any sense to me. So, but hey, good luck. So, like, then you have the Eagles team, who's paying A.J. Brown $25 million a year. Then you have Devontae Smith, who's going to be getting the contract, I think, next year, I think. Like, I think he's going to get paid. Okay, I'm honestly kind of confused with how the market is working. Oh my god. Oh wait, no. Brandon Ayuk has a 5th-year option. Okay, so yeah, he will probably get a contract next year and stuff like that. And then you have the Rams, which they're actually in a perfect situation. Puka Nacua is on a rookie scale contract, and Cooper Kupp, I'm pretty sure, is not even a top paid receiver. So that's kind of interesting. And it's just so weird to think about how this is what's going on in the league now. And it seems to be the new trend is you should not be paying your quarterbacks or receivers more than $20 million a year. That's just what's seeming to be happening right now. Which is honestly kind of sad because, like, the receiver position outside, I think, quarterback is probably the most, like, exciting position in football. In my personal opinion, I think it is. Outside of quarterback, like I said. So that's very interesting, to say the least, of how that case is going. So it'll be quite interesting to see how the Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith contracts are going to go. And also, I guess, Jalen Waddle. Because there are some interesting conversations to be talked about, for sure. But what do you guys think now in the comment section? But anyway, hope you guys enjoy. Peace.